Ilia Topuria will be the most powerful and aggressive boxer in the pocket that Alexander Volkanovski has faced in his MMA career. With Volkanovski coming off a knockout loss in his last fight, this presents a formidable challenge. Nevertheless, Topuria has shown some weaknesses at various points in his MMA career, so it's not unreasonable to think that the Volkanovski of a couple of fights ago would have been favoured in this matchup. To look at the progression of Ilia Topuria's career, he started off as almost a pure grappler. Since his first couple of fights, he has added in more boxing skills, and in the context of the UFC, could now be described as a boxing stylist. Whilst it's not unusual for a grappler to fall in love with striking after one or two knockouts, in the case of Topuria, he has the skills to support this approach, but it may be a necessity. If you look at both Topuria's fights against Bryce Mitchell and against Yusuf Zalal, he appeared to be breathing very deeply and fading in both of those fights.
You see Topuria showing big signs of fatigue, sat up against the...
So now, as he fights at championship duration, fighting as a slugging boxer may be the only way he can go the championship distance without noticeably fading. Volkanovski's skills, in contrast, have been widely publicized. He has probably been the most well-rounded fighter in MMA in recent years. To look at Topuria's style, personally I would call it a slugging, pro-boxing type of style. Topuria often stands leaning his weight over his front leg.
Topuria is noticeably in a lower stance.
Technically, this makes his head the closest part of his body to his opponent, which would be a bad idea in all types of point fighting style striking, including amateur boxing. However, Topuria is one of the few fighters who make this stance work for him, as he is very good at slipping towards his opponent like a pro boxer. Leaning his weight over his front leg also in some ways mimics a wrestler's stance and has been talked about as a method of optimizing his takedown defense. If there's a performance which Volkanovski will be looking to emulate against Topuria, some would look to Volkanovski's first fight against Max Holloway, where he was very effective with leg kicks, as Topuria conceded 18 out of 20 leg kicks against Josh Emmett. Personally though, I would look to Volkanovski's fight against Jose Aldo. On that occasion, Volkanovski started the fight looking tactical at range. He was particularly looking to land a left roundhouse kick, with which he had intermittent success. If you look at the Aldo fight, Volkanovski landed, I think, 2 right roundhouse kicks in the first 2 rounds, whereas in the first Max Holloway fight, the distribution of kicks was more even between left and right. The reason I think the left roundhouse kick will be effective against Topuria is firstly because obviously he has been dropped by it in the past. Also, if he can start crashing his shin against Topuria's forearm, it will make him hesitant to throw the right hand. I think it will be more dangerous spending that extra time posting on one leg to throw the right kick against Topuria, firstly because he could blast the right hand directly, and secondly because Topuria could use that to close the range. The challenges that Volkanovski may face in implementing such a game plan against Topuria are mostly psychological in my opinion. With Volkanovski coming off a knockout loss, potentially him having a point to prove, and getting a lot of aggressive energy from Topuria, there may be a temptation for Volkanovski to get into the kind of brawl he got into with Chad Mendes. On that occasion, Volkanovski prevailed, though he was wobbled and nearly finished at one stage. If this fight becomes a slugfest in the pocket with no long-range striking, or clinches/grappling to intersperse the action, then I would put it at greater than 90% Topuria can finish Volkanovski. Outside of the potential for Volkanovski to win a decision striking at range, and Topuria to TKO Volkanovski at mid-range, there is a potential that Volkanovski approaches this fight as a wrestler, especially as he has been critical of Topuria's wrestling in interviews.
Like, if he thinks he's going to be able to out wrestle me, with what I've seen, like, you know what I mean? Like, he needs to show more than what he's done with the wrestling, a lot more.
As I've already said in this video, I don't believe Topuria is going to approach this fight as an offensive wrestler as a plan A. I think he's going to be going for the KO. Volkanovski did recently have success with takedowns against Yair Rodriguez, but I expect Topuria to have much better takedown defense in the early rounds here. In terms of submissions, Topuria is dangerous from the all-fours position. He could also potentially catch Volkanovski trying to get up off the ground, although I think he would need to rock Volkanovski on the feet first to do that. All in all, I'm going to go with the underdog and pick Topuria by KO. If Volkanovski had the momentum of a couple of fights ago, I would pick him to mix the ranges and gas Topuria out, but he's had an injury and is coming off a KO loss. I will also say that if Topuria does win, I expect him to become regarded as a demigod by hardcore MMA fans. He's got the kind of skills that combat sports fans love. That said, I don't see him being as dominant a champion as Volkanovski unless he becomes more versatile as a 5-round fighter. Let me know in the comments how you see this fight going.